In 1955, your grandmother kept Mercurochrome on the shelf, a wooden spoon by the stove, and a screen door that swung open until the streetlights came on. By 2005, every one of those things had been recalled, banned, or labeled neglect. But here is the twist. The mothers who ignored the experts raised the most independent generation in American history. Number 14 on this list was so common, the FDA spent 40 years quietly removing it from drugstore shelves. Number 3 would now trigger a CPS visit before sundown. Hit subscribe before this list disappears. Let us count them down. Number 20, putting babies to sleep on their stomachs. Walk into any 1950s American nursery and you would see the same thing. A baby flat on its belly, head turned to one side, a soft pillow under the head, and a fluffy blanket on top. Your grandmother put your father down that way every single night. The American Academy of Pediatrics actually recommended it through the late 1980s. Doctors said it prevented choking. Mothers said it helped colic. Babies slept longer, deeper, and more peacefully. Then, in 1992, the AAP reversed itself with the Back to Sleep campaign. Within 5 years, every American hospital was sending mothers home with strict orders to lay babies on their backs only. The fluffy pillow became a hazard. The crib bumper became evidence. The blanket became a felony in a courtroom. The reversal saved real lives, but it also turned 3 generations of mothers into accidental criminals. The same nursery that produced the strongest baby boomers in history now reads like a federal indictment. Your grandmother followed every doctor's order. The doctors changed their minds. She did not. The babies on her belly built the country we live in. Number 19, the 1950s medicine cabinet. Open any bathroom cupboard in 1955, and you would find the same set of bottles. A small brown bottle of Mercurochrome with a glass dropper, a jar of iodine for cuts, a bottle of paregoric for colicky babies, a glass thermometer with a silver bead of mercury. Your grandmother used every one of them with confidence. She dabbed Mercurochrome on a scraped knee. She painted iodine on a thorn wound. She placed a thermometer under a child's tongue and read it by lamplight. The FDA pulled Mercurochrome from drugstore shelves in 1998 over mercury concerns. Paregoric, an opium derivative, was reclassified as a controlled substance and effectively disappeared from American pediatrics by the early 2000s. Mercury thermometers were banned for sale in 21 states by 2010. Every tool in that cabinet had been removed within 50 years. The companies that replaced them, Bayer, Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, sold safer alternatives at 5 times the price. Your grandmother spent 30 cents to treat a wound. The modern parent spends $15 on a tube that does less. Same wound, different bill. The chemistry never changed, just the marketing. Number 18, whiskey on the gums for teething babies. When a baby cried through the night with new teeth pushing through, your great-grandmother had 3 options. Walk the floor for hours, give paregoric, which contained opium, or rub a single drop of whiskey on the swollen gum. Most chose the whiskey. The alcohol numbed the gum within seconds. The baby slept. The household survived another week. Pediatric textbooks from the 1940s and 1950s mentioned the practice without alarm. Doctors recommended it. Pharmacies stocked teething whiskey in tiny brown bottles labeled for infant use. By the late 1990s, the AAP had formally classified any alcohol given to a baby as a form of child endangerment. State child welfare codes followed. In 2014, a Tennessee mother lost custody of her infant for 2 months after a pediatrician smelled bourbon during a routine checkup. Her own grandmother had used whiskey on her gums in 1962, without consequence. The same single drop that put a baby to sleep in 1955 now opens a state file in 2025. Your grandmother knew what worked. The state knew what looked bad in court. The baby grew up healthy. The file remains open. Number 17, a spoonful of cod liver oil every morning. Before vitamin gummies and prenatal pills, the American breakfast table held a small brown bottle and a wooden spoon. Your great-grandmother lined her children up before school and gave each one a measured tablespoon. The taste was awful. The benefits were real. Cod liver oil delivered vitamin A, vitamin D, omega-3 fatty acids, and iodine in a single dose. The British government issued it free to children during the war. American mothers paid 40 cents a bottle and considered it a daily duty. Then the FDA tightened labeling rules in the 1970s, restricting what manufacturers could claim about benefits. The supplement industry pivoted to multivitamins, fish oil capsules, and gummies marketed to picky children. Universities published studies confirming what every grandmother knew, that whole food cod liver oil works better than the synthetic equivalents at half the cost. A bottle still costs roughly $6. The gummy alternative costs $40. The chemistry has not changed, only the packaging has. Your grandmother gave it for free with breakfast. The modern parent buys it in a plastic bear and pays the difference. Same fish, different bottle, worse taste. Number 16. Outside until the streetlights came on. The 1955 American summer ran on a single rule: get out of the house. Do not come back until you hear the streetlights buzz on. Your grandmother fed her 4 children breakfast at 7 and saw them again at 6. They ran, they climbed, they settled their own arguments without an adult in sight. They returned with scraped knees, ruined shoes, and stories that lasted a week. The neighborhood was the babysitter. Mrs. Henderson watched from her porch. Old Mr. Klein yelled if anyone got too close to the road. Every adult on the block had standing authority to send a child home. By 2015, every state had expanded its definition of child neglect to include unsupervised outdoor play under specific ages. Maryland investigated a couple in 2014 for letting their 10-year-old walk home alone from a park. The investigation lasted 6 months. The children were returned, the case file remained. The same outdoor freedom that built independent baby boomers now triggers a state inquiry. Your grandmother trusted the block trusted the children. The state trusts neither. Streetlights still come on. Children stay inside now. Number 15. Riding in the back of the pickup truck. Every American kid born before 1980 has the same memory. A summer afternoon, a long drive on a country road, and the back of an open pickup full of cousins. Your grandmother packed sandwiches in a cooler and waved from the porch. The wind hit your face at 40 miles an hour. Hay bales were the only seat belts. Nobody died on the way to the lake. By 2007, 30 states had passed laws making it illegal to transport a child in the open bed of a pickup truck. NHTSA classified the practice as one of the most dangerous travel configurations on American roads. The fine for violation runs from $100 to $500 per child. The truck has not changed. The chemistry of riding has not changed. The wind still feels the same. But the law arrived, and a generation of summer Saturdays became an offense. Your grandmother handed out sandwiches. The state hands out tickets. Same lake, same road. A different consequence. Number 14. The whole family in one car, no seatbelts in sight. The 1955 station wagon held 7 children, 2 parents, and 1 Labrador. Nobody was buckled. The youngest rode in the front seat on her mother's lap. The older children stood up to look out the back window. The dog rode shotgun. Your grandmother drove 50 miles to a relative's farm without a single concern. NHTSA was created in 1970. The federal seatbelt mandate landed in 1968. By 1985, all 50 states required restraints for children under specific ages. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety published thousands of pages explaining the deaths. The rules saved lives in real numbers, but the rules also reframed every previous generation as reckless. Your grandmother drove the same speed, the same roads, the same family configuration. She buried no children to highway accidents. The math of seatbelts is real. So is the math of how Americans used to travel without them. Both can be true. The station wagon was scrapped in 1981. The 7 children all grew up. Number 13. Crib bumpers, fluffy blankets, and a soft mattress. Walk into a 1958 nursery, and you would see a wooden crib lined with padded bumpers, a soft pillow, a quilt sewn by your great-aunt, and a thick mattress that sank under a baby's weight. The bumpers protected the head from rails. The blanket kept the baby warm through the night. Your grandmother considered all of it the bare minimum for a nursery worthy of the name. The Consumer Product Safety Commission ruled crib bumpers a suffocation hazard in 2022. The Federal Safe Sleep for Babies Act passed that same year. Soft bedding had been discouraged since the early 2000s, but now it became a sales ban. Within 12 months, every American retailer pulled the product. A $50 crib bumper that had cushioned 3 generations of newborns became contraband. The hospital discharge nurse now demands a bare crib, a fitted sheet, and nothing else. Your grandmother decorated the nursery. The state decorates it for you now. Quilts now live in attics. The cribs sit empty. Number 12. Lead paint on cribs and toys. Pick up a wooden alphabet block from 1955, and you would find it painted in bright reds, yellows, and greens. The paint contained lead carbonate to brighten the pigment and bond it to the wood. Cribs were finished the same way, so were rocking horses, kitchen cabinets, and most of the trim in the average American home. Your great-grandmother repainted her son's crib 3 times before passing it down to his sister. Then Congress passed the Lead-Based Paint Poisoning Prevention Act in 1971, banning lead in residential paint. The CPSC followed with toy bans in 1978. By the 1990s, lead testing kits were sold in every hardware store. The reformulation cost the paint industry billions and saved real children from real harm. But it also turned every old crib in every American attic into a hazardous artifact. The rocking horse a grandfather built in 1958 is now a chemistry exhibit. The block your father chewed on is evidence. That paint lined his nursery. It lines attics still. Number 11, walking to kindergarten alone. The 1955 5-year-old walked 4 blocks to school, carrying a metal lunchbox and a folded note. Your grandmother stood at the kitchen window with her coffee, watched until he turned the corner, then started her day. He arrived, the teacher checked him in. He walked home with the same neighbor children at 3. The route had been the same for 3 generations of mothers on that block. By 2015, every state had codified neglect statutes that allowed CPS to investigate any parent who let a child under specific ages walk unsupervised. Maryland, Connecticut, and California pursued cases. The Mayativ family of Silver Spring became a national headline in 2014 after letting their 10-year-old and 6-year-old walk home from a park. The investigation lasted nearly a year. The children attended school the entire time. The neighborhood watched. The state intervened. Your grandmother's morning coffee is now a felony question. The note in the lunchbox is a future exhibit. The 5-year-old who walked to school in 1955 is a grandfather now. Number 10. Sending a 6-year-old to the corner store with a list and exact change. In 1956, your grandmother handed her son a quarter, a folded shopping list, and a small basket. She told him to walk 3 blocks to Mr. Green's grocery, ask for a quart of milk, a loaf of bread, and a box of salt, and bring back the change. He did it every Saturday. Mr. Green knew his name. The cashier knew the family. The route was so common that nobody thought to mention it. By 2018, the same trip would have triggered a 911 call from a passing motorist. Several states have prosecuted parents under contributing to the delinquency statutes for sending young children on errands alone. A South Carolina mother was arrested in 2014 for letting her 9-year-old play in a public park while she worked a shift at McDonald's. The boy walked himself there. Your grandmother sent her son to fetch milk. The state would now fetch her grandson into custody. The grocery closed in 1987. The chain locks the door. Number 9, lawn darts on a summer lawn. Lawn darts, sold under the brand name Jarts, were a backyard game with metal-tipped projectiles weighing nearly a pound each. The set came in a cardboard box with 2 plastic rings, 4 darts, and instructions to hurl the darts overhand toward the rings. Children played it on suburban lawns from 1959 through 1988. Your grandfather kept a set in the garage. The whole family played at picnics. The Consumer Product Safety Commission banned the sale of lawn darts in 1988 after several deaths and thousands of injuries. Possession was not banned, but distribution and import became illegal. A set still in a garage today is technically legal, but cannot be replaced if lost. The math of the injuries is real. Children died, so did adults. The CPSC made a defensible call, but it ended a backyard game that had defined American summers for 30 years. Your grandfather aimed at the ring. Your grandson would never see a Jard in person. That same set sits in the garage. Number 8, BB guns and .2, 2 rifles for boys at age 10. The 1955 American boy received a Daisy BB gun for his 8th birthday and a .2 rifle for his 12th. Your grandfather taught him to clean it on the kitchen table. The rules were simple. Never point it at a person. Always assume it is loaded. Treat it like a tool, not a toy. Boys carried .22s on country roads to shoot rabbits, tin cans, and the occasional snake. Nobody called the police. By 2025, 16 states had passed laws restricting minor possession of any firearm without direct adult supervision. Several school districts treat the sight of a BB gun as a discipline incident. Federal child welfare guidance now lists access to firearms as a contributing factor in abuse and neglect investigations. The point two your grandfather bought for his son in 1956 is still in the family safe. The grandson cannot legally take it to a public field without paperwork that did not exist in 1956. The rabbits multiplied, the boys did not. Number 7. The backyard burn barrel and the family bonfire. Walk through any 1950s suburban yard at dusk and you would smell wood smoke. Half the families burned their household trash in a metal drum at the back of the lot. The other half kept a fire pit ringed with stones for Saturday night gatherings. Your grandfather stoked the barrel with newspapers, milk cartons, and the previous week's leaves. Children roasted hot dogs over the embers. The neighbors nodded from their own yards. The Environmental Protection Agency began regulating backyard burning in the 1970s. By the early 2000s, more than half of American counties had banned residential burn barrels outright. Open burning permits became required in most states. Fines for violation run from $100 to several $1,000s depending on jurisdiction. The fire that warmed 3 generations of cousins is now an environmental violation. The same smoke your grandfather watched curl into the dusk is now classified as particulate emission. The dusk has not changed. The law has. That barrel rusts in the yard. Number 6. Onion in the sock, mustard plaster, and Vicks on the chest. When a child ran a fever in 1955, your grandmother reached for 3 remedies in this exact order. First, a sliced onion taped to the bottom of each foot inside a wool sock. Second, a mustard plaster spread on a cotton cloth and laid across the chest. Third, a thick layer of Vicks Vapo Rub rubbed deep into the chest and back. The fever broke. The cough loosened. The child slept. The FDA tightened labeling rules on Vicks throughout the 1990s and 2000s, restricting age recommendations and dosage claims. Mustard plasters were quietly removed from pharmacy shelves. The onion in the sock survived only as a folk story passed between mothers in private text messages. Universities have published studies on the antimicrobial compounds in onions and the menthol penetration of camphor rubs. The remedies work. The agencies could not regulate them, so they discouraged them. Your grandmother's 3-step routine is now an internet conspiracy theory. The fevers still break. The mothers still text. Number 5. The unsupervised trip to the soda fountain. In 1956, your grandmother gave her son a quarter and waved him toward the corner pharmacy. He sat at the lunch counter, ordered a cherry Coke and a plate of fries, and walked home an hour later with the change in his pocket. The pharmacist knew his name. The waitress refilled his glass. By 2010, every state had passed loitering and minor supervision laws that made unsupervised time in commercial establishments a contributing factor in neglect investigations. Restaurants posted minimum age signs. Pharmacies required guardians. The pharmacy that served 3 generations of children at its lunch counter became a Walgreens with no counter at all. Your grandmother sent him for a Coke. The state now sends a caseworker for an interview. The cherry Coke costs $4. The lesson costs your custody. The pharmacist died in 2001. The counter went the next year. Number 4. Real fireworks in the driveway on the 4th of July. The 1955 American driveway on July 4th held a coffee can of bottle rockets, a brick of firecrackers, and a box of M80s your grandfather had bought legally in 3 states. Children lit punks from a smoldering rope and ran. Adults drank beer and cheered. The neighborhood watched from lawn chairs. The Federal Hazardous Substances Act of 1976 reclassified most consumer fireworks. The CPSC restricted M80s and silver salutes to professional use only. By 2020, more than half of American states had banned aerial fireworks for residential use. Permits became required for displays of any meaningful size. Your grandfather lit fuses with a cigarette. The grandson watches a municipal show from a folding chair. The same Independence Day that produced calluses, bottle scars, and great stories now produces a permit application and a call to the fire marshal. Number 3. 10-year-olds babysitting younger siblings. In 1957, the average 10-year-old American girl could mind 2 younger siblings for an entire afternoon. She fed them lunch, settled their fights, treated their scraped knees, and put the youngest down for a nap. Your grandmother left for a hair appointment without a phone, a checklist, or a backup plan. By 2015, almost every state had a recommended minimum age for child supervision, generally between 12 and 14. CPS investigators routinely use these guidelines as a starting point for neglect cases. A 2018 Illinois case removed 3 siblings from a home after a neighbor reported a 10-year-old answering the door alone. The 10-year-old who ran the household in 1957 grew up to manage emergency rooms, classrooms, and corner offices. Her granddaughter cannot legally make a peanut butter sandwich for her brother without an adult in the room. She learned how at age 5. Number 2. The Summer Night Out. Home by the porch light. A 1957 summer evening looked like this. Your grandmother served dinner at 6, watched her 3 children walk down the street toward whatever game was happening that night, and turned the porch light on at 8. They came home when the light went on. Not before, not after. The system needed no phones, no GPS, no group chat. By 2020, every state had laws that could be applied to charge a parent with neglect for letting children spend extended unsupervised time outside the home. Cell phone checks have become evidence in custody cases. Tracking apps are now considered baseline parenting hygiene. Your grandmother trusted the porch light. The modern parent trusts an app. The children of 1957 came home for dinner. The children of 2025 are tracked through their pockets, and most of them never leave the house anymore. Number 1. The whole 1950s social contract that made every other entry on this list possible. This is the foundation. From the 1940s through the early 1970s, American childhood was held together by a structure no agency could ever build. 2 parents in most homes, a mother who knew the daily rhythm of her own block, a father who came home at the same hour every night, neighbors who watched from their porches and intervened without asking permission, a church on every corner that organized aid before the welfare office did, a school that mirrored the household's discipline rather than contradicting it, a grocer, a pharmacist, a barber, and a postman who all knew the children of their street by name. Every other entry on this list, the medicine cabinet, the wooden spoon, the burn barrel, the unsupervised walk, the porch light, was possible because that structure existed. The structure trusted parents to raise children. The structure trusted children to walk home. The structure trusted neighbors to step in. The agencies did not erase the practices. The agencies erased the social contract that made the practices safe. The wooden spoon could survive any law. It could not survive the disappearance of the block. Your grandmother had the block, your grandson does not. The block disappeared first. The practices followed. The state filled the empty space.